The unexpected visit, it was a quiet night, the kind that seemed to stretch on forever, filled with peace and solitude. Mark had just finished a long day, and now, like most nights, he was winding down. His room was dimly lit, with only the soft glow of his desk lamp casting long shadows against the walls. The world outside was calm, the silence broken only by the occasional creak of the house settling. It was the kind of night where nothing seemed out of the ordinary. He stretched, letting out a long yawn, and sank deeper into his chair. He had already checked his phone for any missed messages, and now he was just letting his mind wander. The window was slightly open, allowing the cool breeze to filter in and gently rustle the curtains. Everything was peaceful until the silence was broken by the sound of footsteps. Mark didn't think much of it at first. His parents had gone to bed earlier, and his sister, Emily, usually stayed up late, reading or scrolling through her phone. But the footsteps were closer this time, too close. They weren't the usual quiet steps he had grown accustomed to hearing. They sounded more urgent, like someone was walking with purpose. Before Mark could process what was happening, the door to his room creaked open, and there stood Emily, standing in the doorway, her figure outlined by the dim light in the hallway. Mark blinked in surprise, not expecting her at this hour. "Hey," Emily said, her voice a bit shaky, but she quickly tried to smile as she stepped into the room. "Hey, what's going on?" "It's late," Mark asked, sitting up straight in his chair. He couldn't help but feel a little uneasy, not because of her presence, but because there was something different about her tonight. The way she stood there, almost like she was waiting for something, made him uneasy. I couldn't sleep," she said softly, her eyes darting around the room before meeting his gaze. "I wanted to talk to you." Mark looked at her, his brow furrowing. Slightly, Emily had always been independent, often keeping to herself. They didn't talk much at night, especially not this late. But something about the way she was standing there, her body tense and her eyes avoiding his, made him feel like something was wrong. "About what?" he asked, his voice calm but full of curiosity. Emily had always been a little secretive, but tonight it felt different. He couldn't explain it, but there was a certain nervous energy about her. Emily hesitated before sitting down on the edge of his bed, her hands fidgeting in her lap. "I don't know how to start, Mark," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been keeping something from you." From everyone. Mark's heart skipped a beat. The seriousness in her tone caught him off guard. She had always been open about most things, but the way she said it made him feel like whatever she was about to say was big, something he wasn't prepared to hear. "Emily, what's going on?" he asked, his voice steady, though his mind was racing. She took a deep breath, her hands still nervously twisting the fabric of her shirt. "I've been seeing someone, and I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't want to mess things up, you know. I didn't think it was that serious until recently. And now I just feel like I need to talk to someone." Mark blinked, processing the words. It wasn't the fact that Emily had been seeing someone that surprised him. She was a teenager, after all, and dating was part of growing up. It was the way she was acting, the way she seemed so uneasy about it, that made him suspicious. Something wasn't right, and he could feel it deep in his gut. "Okay," Mark said slowly, leaning forward in his chair. "Who is it? Why didn't you tell Mom and Dad?" Emily's eyes flickered with uncertainty, and for a moment she didn't answer. It was almost like she was searching for the right words, but they just wouldn't come. "It's complicated," she said, her voice barely audible. "I didn't want anyone to know." "I thought it would be easier this way." Mark's mind raced. He knew there was more to the story than Emily was letting on. He couldn't place it, but the way she was holding back, the tension in her body, it was clear she was hiding something. something that made her feel like she had to keep it all secret. Emily, you can tell me anything, Mark said gently, trying to reassure her. I'm not going to judge you. She looked at him, her face full of hesitation. I don't know if I can, Mark. I never thought it would get this far. It was supposed to be something small, something fun. But now, I can't stop thinking about it. Mark leaned closer. What's going on, Em? You're scaring me a little. Emily finally met his eyes, and there was a brief flash of fear in them. She swallowed hard, as if the words were stuck in her throat. I don't think I can keep it from you anymore, she whispered. I've been seeing someone close to the family. Mark's stomach dropped. The words she said hit him like a punch to the gut. Someone close to the family. That was no small thing. He stared at her, his mind trying to make sense of what she was saying. What do you mean? Who? But before Emily could respond, she stood up abruptly, her face flushed with panic. I can't do this. I shouldn't have come in here. Mark stood up quickly, reaching out to stop her. Emily, wait. But she was already out the door. She left as quickly as she had come, leaving Mark standing there, more confused and unsettled than ever. He stood there for a long time, the room suddenly feeling much colder than before. What had just happened? Why had Emily acted that way? Who was she seeing, and why was it so important that she had to keep it a secret from the family? Mark didn't have the answers, but one thing was certain: whatever Emily was hiding, it was bigger than either of them could have imagined. Asterisk the shocking. Revelation. Mark sat still in his room, the silence pressing down on him. Emily's sudden exit had left him more confused than ever. What had just happened? Why had she looked so terrified when she started talking about her secret? And who was she seeing? The fact that she had been so vague, so panicked, gnawed at. Him. He had to know the truth, but part of him hesitated. Emily was his stepsister, and while they were close, there were things in families you didn't always want to know. He sat back down on his chair, staring at the door, hoping she'd come back to explain. But the minutes passed in silence. He didn't want to press her too hard, but Mark knew he couldn't let this go. Something was wrong. There was more to the story, and he was determined to uncover it, just as he was about to give up and head downstairs to find her. He heard a soft knock on the door. He immediately stood up and opened it, half expecting Emily to be standing there, ready to talk. But it wasn't Emily, it was his mother, Sarah. Mark, what's going on? Sarah asked, her voice calm but with a hint of concern. I heard some talking upstairs. Is everything okay with Emily? Mark hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Yeah, it's fine. She just ... Came in here to talk, but she left pretty quickly. She seemed upset. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Upset? About what? Mark shrugged, not sure how much to say. I'm not really sure. She was acting strange, but she didn't want to explain. She just said something about keeping a secret, then ran off. Sarah's eyes narrowed, a slight frown on her face. A secret? Did she tell you anything else? Mark could tell his mother was worried. She and Emily had always had a close bond, and if Emily was hiding something, Sarah would want to know. But how could Mark explain it without spilling too much? How could he tell her that Emily had been acting strange and saying things that didn't make sense? I don't know, Mom, Mark said, feeling the weight of the situation settle on his shoulders, but she seemed nervous. Like she didn't want to tell me something. I think she might be hiding something. Sarah didn't say anything right away. She just stared at him, clearly processing the information. Mark couldn't tell what she was thinking, but he could tell she was concerned. Okay, Sarah finally said, her voice soft. I'll talk to her. But you're right, Mark. If she's hiding something, we need to know what it is. As Sarah left the room, Mark felt a chill creep over him. He knew he couldn't just let Emily shut him out. There was too much at stake and too many questions left unanswered. He had to find out who she was seeing and what kind of trouble she had gotten herself into. Asterisk, a few minutes later, Mark heard footsteps coming from the hallway again. He looked up, expecting Emily to return, but instead, Sarah stepped back into the room. "She's not talking, Mark," Sarah said, her face serious. "I tried to ask her what's going on, but she's being really distant. She's scared and she won't open up." Mark felt his heart drop. Emily had always been the type to keep things to herself, but this was different. There was something else going on, and whatever it was big. "You know her better than I do," Mark said, trying to sound calm. "What do you think she's hiding? Do you think it's really just some boyfriend thing, or is it something more serious?" Sarah sighed, her eyes full of concern. "I don't know, Mark, but I'll tell you this. She's been different lately. Not just about boys, but about everything. She's been acting weird at home, not talking much. I thought it was just typical teenage stuff, but now I'm not so sure." Mark felt a knot in his stomach. This doesn't feel like typical teenage stuff. Something's not right. Before Sarah could respond, Mark's phone buzzed on the desk. It was a message from Emily. Mark glanced at it quickly, trying not to seem too eager. "I can't talk right now. Please don't tell Mom. I'll explain when I'm ready. I promise." Mark's fingers hovered over the screen. He wanted to respond, but he wasn't sure what to say. Was she asking for space, or was she afraid to tell him the truth? Just as Mark was about to text back, his phone buzzed again. This time, it was a different message, and it made his blood run cold. "The truth will come out soon. You won't be able to stop it, and when it does, everything will change." The message was from an unknown number. No name, no signature. Just those chilling words. Mark's heart raced as the weight of the message sank in. Who was this? Why would someone send him such a cryptic text about his sister? Was this the person Emily was involved with? Was it a threat? "Mom," Mark said, his voice trembling with sudden fear. "I think there's more to this than we realize. Emily's in trouble, and I don't think it's just a secret relationship. Someone is involved, and I don't know who they are, but they're watching her." Sarah's eyes widened in shock. "What do you mean? Who's watching her?" Mark showed her the message. Sarah's expression turned pale as she read it, her hand trembling as she passed the phone back to him. "Mark, this is bad," she whispered. "We need to find out who sent this. And we need to do it fast." Asterisk, the unseen danger Mark couldn't stop staring at the message. The words were haunting, their meaning heavy with an unseen weight. "The truth will come out soon. You won't be able to stop it. And when it does, everything will change." The more he thought about it, the more he realized that this wasn't just a random text. It was a warning. But who was sending it? And what did it mean for Emily? Mark turned the phone over in his hands, his mind racing. Who could know about Emily's secret? Who would be watching her? He glanced over at his mom, whose face had gone pale as she read the message. Sarah was clearly as worried as he was, but her expression was one of confusion. She didn't know who this mysterious person was, and neither did Mark. "What do we do now?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "We can't just ignore this. Someone is threatening Emily, and we have no idea who it is." Mark's stomach twisted with anxiety. "I don't know, Mom, but I think we need to confront her. I don't think we have much time. Whatever this person is threatening, it's happening soon." Sarah nodded, a look of determination crossing her face. "We'll talk to her together. We'll get to the bottom of this." But as Mark stood up to go find Emily, something stopped him. The room suddenly felt colder. He turned toward the window, noticing for the first time the dark shadows stretching across the street outside. The peaceful neighborhood seemed unnervingly quiet. Then a strange thought crossed his mind. What if the threat wasn't just about Emily? What if it had something to do with their family? He felt a sudden, terrible sense of danger creeping into his thoughts, and it was coming from more than just the text. Before he could say anything more, Emily's voice interrupted the silence. The sound of footsteps echoed from the hallway. Mark and Sarah turned in surprise as Emily appeared at the door of the room. She looked hesitant, like she'd been standing outside, debating whether to come in. "Emily," Sarah said gently, her voice full of concern, "we need to talk. Mark saw your message. We know there's something going on." Emily hesitated, her eyes flicking nervously between Mark and Sarah. Her lips trembled as she stepped into the room, closing the door behind her. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice shaky. "I didn't want you to know about any of this." Mark stood up slowly, his heart racing. "Emily, we found a message. Someone's been threatening you. This isn't just about a boyfriend or a secret relationship. Whoever's behind this, they know more than you're telling us." Emily's eyes widened with fear, and for a moment, she seemed to shrink under the weight of Mark's words. She looked like she was about to speak, but stopped herself, biting her lip as if holding back something that was too difficult to say. "I don't know how to explain it, but I didn't want to get you involved," she finally said. "I didn't want anyone to know. I thought I could handle it myself." Sarah took a step closer, her voice softer now. "Emily, you can't handle this on your own. You don't know what's at stake. Whoever's behind this, whoever sent that message, they're not playing games." Emily's eyes filled with tears, and she broke down. "I never wanted this to happen. It started out so simple, but now it's out of my control. It's too late, and I don't know what to do." Mark stepped forward, his protective instincts kicking in. "Emily, tell us what happened. You don't have to do this alone." Through her tears, Emily wiped her eyes and began to speak. "It's a guy I met online. I thought he was just another guy looking for attention, but then he started sending me these weird messages. At first, it wasn't that serious, but he started showing up in places I didn't expect. He's connected to something bigger, something I can't escape. He keeps saying that I've been chosen for something important, and that everything's going to change for me, for all of us." Mark felt a chill crawl up his spine. "What do you mean, chosen for something?" Emily shook her head, her hands trembling. "I don't know. He talks about things that don't make sense. And then he said he could make me famous, powerful, if I just did one thing for him. But I didn't want to do it. I didn't want any part of it." "Emily, what did he want from you?" Sarah asked, her voice quiet but urgent. Emily closed her eyes, trying to find the words. "He wants me to become part of something dangerous. And he said if I don't, bad things will happen. He said the truth would come out soon, and that everyone would know." Mark exchanged a look with Sarah, both of them filled with dread. This wasn't just a simple secret or a childish mistake. Emily had gotten caught up in something far darker than they could have imagined. Did you meet him in person?" Mark asked, trying to make sense of what Emily was saying. Emily nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, I didn't think it would go this far. I thought I could stop it, but every time I tried, he kept pushing. He kept saying that I had no choice, and now I think I'm in too deep." Mark's stomach twisted. "What happens next?" Emily didn't answer immediately. She stared at the floor, lost in thought. After a long pause, she looked up at Mark and Sarah. He said that tonight would be the night everything changes. He said I had to make a choice. Suddenly, Mark felt the air grow colder, and the hairs on his neck stood up. "What choice?" "What do you mean, Emily?" Before Emily could answer, a loud knock echoed from the front door. Mark's heart skipped a beat. A feeling of dread washed over him. The visitor outside wasn't expected, but it was too late to turn back now. Whoever was behind this was close, and they were about to make their move.